Okay, we are live.
Thank you, Mansoor. Welcome, everybody. Good evening from Barcelona. For those of you in the European time zone, how are you doing? Welcome to our weekly community event. On Tuesdays, we host this and stream this on four different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. Feel free to share it with your colleagues, networks, professional connections who are into product and product management and you would like them and they love to know about product, not to have product knowledge. This event is recorded as always, and welcome. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one, where we will be talking about translating a product strategy into an actionable plan. We all know great products start with strategy, and your plan is the secret sauce to make it a success. So we will be hearing that from our awesome guest, Senior Product Manager, Raúl Vallejo, and he will talk us through later, and he will introduce himself during his segment. But before that, I will share a little bit about myself. My name is Joan Mathenge. I am Kenyan, living in Barcelona. I've had the privilege of working in multiple industries across different domains. And before joining Typeform, my background in business IT helped me work within government projects. And recently, after joining Product People, I am excited to be part of B2B and B2C projects where I help deliver great products faster. With that, this is what we do at Product People, is deliver great products faster after discovering them. But what we do mainly is focus on two pillars of Product People, is the community, and which is why you are here today. And thank you very much for showing up. You are part of our 6,000 members, and we are excited to empower the community with knowledge, skills transferred by great product leaders and product managers working in multiple industries. The second thing we do is interim product management. We are interim product managers, or call us freelance product managers or product owners, where we enter a company or a startup, a technology company with a specific mission. We onboard fast and align teams so that we deliver great products faster. Our missions tend to last around 3 to 36 months, depending on the scope of work and also the passion that we have for our work. You may be asking yourself how our interim product management missions align with the industry, but we notice that there needs some forms of intervention as a result of things that are beyond a company's control. So some of the use cases that we tend to feel include when a company has gotten new funding and require to scale their product team, we help you grow your product team in the interim. Progressive companies also offer product managers and employees at large parental leave. So that doesn't mean that your product is going to wait until the parental leave is over. We fill that gap as well. People will leave the company. We also do that to help you close the hiring gap, which is about 2 to 9 months. And during that period, you will be excited to see the outcomes that you expected from a person within your organization can also deliver. We also do temporary initiatives where we do not, maybe as a company, you are not expected to create a permanent team that for a specific mission, for a specific period of time. We also do these interim temporary initiatives and leave you with a strong pillar or a strong product that can be driven by another product team. We'll also do appraise product teams and processes. So feel free to give us a call, book us via on our website for coaching. Depending on your needs, we will do an appraisal of your team and processes. Because of that, we have been lucky to work with a portfolio of clients. These are our B2C clients. For those of you in Berlin, I'm sure you have seen the beautiful Tia scooters on the roads. You've shopped at one point, either one of you has shopped in Zalando. These are some of our great ongoing clients. Also, not to forget that B2B clients are also part of our portfolio. They range from fintech sectors, education, customer relationship management, and video conferencing platforms. So amongst our portfolio, this portfolio does not grow on its own. It is driven by great product people. We are headquartered in Berlin, and even so, our diverse team sits across different time zones within East and Central Europe, and even some parts of Africa. So we are great to have a diverse portfolio of great product managers. And with that said, if you would like to join our team, it is the right time to do so via productpeople.join.com. Refer someone that you know who is a product manager. And in addition to that, we also are looking for a talent acquisition manager under the same link. So today's topic, we are excited to know that Raúl has prepared a great talk about translating strategy into action through a plan. So before he comes on stage, we wanted to ask the audience to answer a poll so that we understand where you are in terms of road mapping, planning, and strategy. Who does it? What has been your experience? And with your answers, we will be able to tailor our Q&A, or also Raúl might tackle some key pain points you might highlight depending on our answers. So for those on Zoom, the poll questions will be served on the screen. And for those on YouTube and LinkedIn, feel free to use the chat to share your questions. I'll give you a few minutes to answer the poll, and I'll read out the distribution of answers. Take your time. And today's poll, question 1, have you ever translated a product strategy into a roadmap? I'm sure that could be the easiest question we have today. It's a yes or no? Do you show success metric as part of your plan? I'd be curious to know how many of you say no. And the third question is, when building a plan, who is your best partner? You know, great products are built through collaboration. So we'd be curious to know who is in your good books for this planning period, planning process. Mansoor?
Can you see the results, Joanne?
Let's have a look.
Would you, if you want, I can read them if you're having trouble with it.
Could you read out the distribution?
So for the first question, and here are the answers of Zoom only. Now we'll integrate the other ones in a bit. So for the first question, we have 78%, which is 7 out of 9 people who answered yes, and 2 out of 9 people, so 22%, who said no, they have not done that. They have not translated a product strategy into a plan or a roadmap. Sorry, that was, sorry, I'm reading. Yeah, that's correct. Now, question number 2, do you show success metrics as part of your plan? And then here again, we have a majority saying yes, 78%, again, 7 out of 9 of the people that answered here, and 2 out of the 9 said no, so 22% have not shown the success metrics as part of this plan. And then for the third question, when building a plan, who is your best partner? So we've got 11% who rely on UX designers, 11% on data scientists, 33% on engineering managers, and 67%, which is again the majority, that relies on all of them. So on UX designers, data scientists, and engineering managers. Then let me check a little bit the answers on YouTube and LinkedIn and such. So, yep, again, the majority for the first 2 questions is a yes, with some no's here and there. And then for the third question, interesting. So yeah, again, the majority is with answer D, so all of them. Some others saying, Emmanuel, for example, said UX designer and data scientist. Ganesh, interesting one, so mostly C, but he's going to say D because, okay, it's all of them again. So yeah, I think we have quite an obvious majority.
Yeah, thank you, Mansoor. So I do think, Raúl, you can tell the portfolio or the profile of your audience today. I do hope you may adapt your talk to address the 11% that, or 22% that rely on UX and data scientists alone, and give us your opinion on what you do on the ground. So
I will take that during the presentation for sure.
Awesome, thank you. So without further ado, so I'll stop sharing my screen and give Raúl the stage. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'm excited to be here today because more often than not, I attend a product people talk and to learn something. And I'm in the other side today, also trying to learn by sharing, which is another angle, and is amazing. And I want to jump quickly into the topic, but just very briefly, I would like to show, let's say, my career. I started as a backend developer a long time ago. In fact, my hair was black back then. And then I moved to front-end engineer. I had my own company for 8 years. And then I switched to have different experience in different startups in Barcelona, even joining a pre-sales team. And now I'm completely focused in product in Typeform. And to give a little bit more color about what I'm doing there in Typeform, I'm part of the ecosystem colony, meaning everything related to applications that extend product functionalities in product contextually, right? And it's really challenging but beautiful. And just for you to better understand what I do, yesterday we finished a rollout to the 100% of users, of Typeform users, of a new application to enable a new use case, which is scheduling appointments with your customers. So now you can embed a calendar from Calendly, and then you are combining these two beauties, the beauty of Typeform to, let's say, have conversations online with your customers at scale, and Calendly to meet, let's say, to schedule a meeting with your customers. So this is what I'm focused on, like trying to extend product functionalities thanks to third-party applications. This is what I do. And yeah, I'm eager to jump into the topic. So I will share my screen if this is okay with you. Good. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
It's now visible.
Perfect. Thank you. So the idea here is that we are trying to translate a product strategy into an actionable plan. Let me guide you quickly through the agenda. First of all, I want to give you some context. Okay. Then we will move into understand what do I mean by plan. Then talk about a little bit of responsibilities, more focused on the product management side. And then I will share what is the process that works for me. I'm not saying this is the best process, but at least it's the process that works for me. And I will share an example because when I attend a talk, what I want is an example, how I can really make it happen. Give me a template, give me something. So I will use an example for that. And then at the end, we will have the Q&A session led by Johan. Okay. Good. So let's start with this context. Okay. We are here in this blue arrow where you have the strategy, you have to translate it into a plan. And that means that both the vision and the strategy has been defined, meaning the leadership team, all the C-level in the company, or the CEO, the leadership team has inspired the company with a vision that serves as a North Star for the product organization and the full company. And that also means that a product person has defined a strategy to deliver on that vision that has been defined. I have put it here, IC or manager, because at the end, depending on the size of the company, if this is an early stage startup, then it's going to be only 1 PM. We know it. And if this is a more structured, more mature company, maybe you are going to have like a group PM defining the strategy for a group of teams, or maybe a director of product defining everything, right? Also, an assumption for context that I want to share is that I assume that we are part of a product company with empowered teams. What I mean by that, I mean that teams has been empowered by giving them the problem to solve instead of the feature to build. So they really understand the problem, okay? And another aspect is that the strategic context has been shared with the team so that all the team can make good decisions. So they understand the problem and they have the strategic context. This way you empower teams to really make good decisions, not only building the plan, also executing the plan, deciding on trade-offs and so on. Good. So what do I mean by plan? Okay. For me, sometimes people say it's not a plan, it's a roadmap. Okay, I don't mind the name, okay, but the idea is that a plan should include all the product phases. More often than not, we have like a beautiful graph with color arrows, and we call it roadmap. And this is like what we are going to deliver. And that's okay, that's perfect. But what I like to show in a proper plan is all the product phases, from discovery and then validation, execution, and go to market. So I would like to have in the plan all this process that we have to cover. Also, as you will see that I base plans on different iterations, you have to show the value generated on every period, and also show how you are going to measure success for every stage in this plan, okay? I am not saying, hey, let's plan like a year in advance and move to waterfall. I'm not saying that. Plans are not against the agile approach, but planning in advance 1 year, maybe to cover all the strategy, will help you surfacing needs, dependencies, risks, and this is something that really helps, like in the, let's say, avoiding risks in the way. Also, another 2 factors is about changes. So a plan is a live artifact. In my case, I used to iterate a little bit on the plan every quarter. This is like business as usual, okay? So expect iterations. And also you have to somehow be prepared to the absolutely unexpected and to pivot in your plan. I will give an example. It's like you have a plan, a 1-year plan, and you're executing this plan, and then because it's the more meaningful thing to do, you decide to change the focus of SMBs, small and medium businesses, to go to enterprise business, for instance, because you want to increase the ARPA of your users and whatever strategy you have behind. But this is completely unexpected sometimes, and you have to be prepared for that and embrace it and adapt it. Okay, so plans are going to be a live element. Good. Let's talk about responsibilities. And this is serious. This is why I have chosen the most serious picture I have seen. Good. So about responsibilities, the first one that I would like to talk about, and I am strong opinionated in this one, is that product managers are accountable for their value. This is something that I believe. I know that the books say product managers define the what, engineering managers define the how, and whatever. And that's okay, it's correct. But what I say is that accountable PMs are owners, real owners of the value. Okay, so they make it happen. They ensure that the plan is valuable, viable, and really try to make it possible, right? Also, PM just not coordinate efforts. It's not a coordinator. It's about driving through collaboration, taking bold decisions in the way. But it's like enabling collaboration also. Also, PMs are responsible for making decisions based on impact. Some people say based on data, and that's also correct. But in my case, what I strongly believe is that data generate insights, and insights generate impact. So I rather prefer make my decisions based on impact and with correlated information about all the insights and data you have. You have to make decisions. And last one is a thought that a discussion with my manager last week was that value is relative to time. So because you can generate the same value in a week or in 12 months, but if you generate it in 1 week, it's valuable, but if you generate it in 12 months, it's not valuable. So at the end, value is relative to time. If I have to think about the main roles that a PM interacts with, the product manager is responsible for ensuring that the solution is valuable and viable. The UX designer is responsible for ensuring that the solution is usable. And the tech lead, or let's say the engineering manager, is responsible for ensuring the solution is feasible and timely. Again, because value is relative to time, okay? This is how I see this collaboration. Good. So let's move now into the process I follow and an example. Before going to the next slide, I have to ask you for a favor because bear with me. I know that a strategy is not a sentence. I know it, okay? But just for give you context and for be able to come back to this example and talk about and have the proper discussion with you all, I have written down a sentence and I will use it to, let's say, translate this sentence or this strategy into a plan, okay? So here we go. I have used this, let's say, this growth strategy example, and is this one. We want to activate new user acquisition channels by enabling the connection of our product to other tools and marketplaces. So we have here on the right this little icon representing the product, which is an isolated product that is working properly. But what we want to do is increase our user base thanks to activating new channels. So what we are trying to do is to take this product, open its APIs, so that we can build external integrations, for instance, with this product. And thanks to these integrations, we can be in marketplaces, and these marketplaces become acquisition channels, right? So the strategy here is open the product to get more users through these channels, okay? We will come back to this example again and again. Now I will share the process I follow. I think that the process I follow is simple because it's like 2 steps process. The first one is I write the end state. I take a Google Docs document and I write the end state, 1 or 2 pages, 2 pages tops, I mean. And I define and I write down the how successful I have been, what are the metrics that I have moved, what are the process I have followed, everything. And I do it, I try to do it with let's say with passion and with details. Okay, so this is for yourself. You can share it if you want to. If you don't want to, don't share it. But it's a very good way of visualizing where you want to go and how to get there. Okay. If so, the idea is working backwards, right? And if you're interested in having like kind of a template of this, you can Google it, the Amazon press release approach, which is a good approach because it's like writing down the press release that you would do for your feature, product, whatever. They say that it's cheaper to iterate on a press release than on a product, and they are right. So this is the idea. I don't use it, let's say this, but I think it's a very good place to start in this sense. Once I have written down with the more details, the better, because this is what I will use to build a plan, then I write down a draft of the plan. What I use here, and this is what I use, is the Geo roadmap by Roman Pichler. I discovered this template reading a book some years ago. It's the book called Strategize. I recommend it. For those PMs starting, I think it's a very good one. And for those PMs with a little bit of experience, in some case, you maybe will connect some dots there because it's covering from the vision, strategy, plans, everything, all the full cycle. And it's quite good. So in the next slide, I will share the template. And in the next slide, I will share the example of using this template, okay? But the most important thing here is after writing this draft, share it as soon as possible. And I did something, this is what I have improved in my career. Share it as soon as possible. Maybe you are not confident. Maybe you are not 90% confident. And maybe there is a gap there, a security gap, whatever gap. No problem. Once it's like decent, share it, because then maybe someone will come and will tell you, hey, I have seen your metrics and makes sense, but you are not talking about conversion metrics from free to pay user. Are you going to have a look in this metric or whatever about segments, about job to be done or whatever? So if you share it, then you will be able to discover the things that are missing, and it's not a problem. From there, you have to drive collaboration and generate the final version of the plan, okay? And as we have said, iterate on it again and again. Good. So the Geo roadmap in terms of a structure goes like this. So it's just a table where you can see like rows for elements and columns are time, so iterations. So from top down, you have the date or period you want to cover. Then you have a name that represents this iteration. The goal, what is the goal that you want to achieve in this iteration of the plan? And then features. I understand features are outcomes of this period. And finally, the metrics you want to move, not from the perspective of listing the metrics. You have to say what the metrics that you want to move and how are you going to ensure that you have been successful in this period. So if you are saying that you want to increase a percentage, how much, okay? And we will see this in the example in the next slide. By the way, here you have the link is from unpixler.com. You can download this template. Good. So yeah, maybe the only thing to add here is that I add a row to this table because I like it. It's useful for me. I add the dependencies row. Is the only thing I add to this table, because as this is a plan that we are going to share with other people, and it's going to be an element to discuss with others and define the plan, I want for everyone to be in the same page in terms of dependencies. And then we will be able to see that not now, but in 3 quarters, we are going to need something special. Okay. Good. Before going to the table, which is the example of the plan for the strategy, let me come back to the strategy as a reminder. So what we are trying to do is to activate new user acquisition channels by enabling the connection of our product to other tools and marketplaces, okay? And we have an isolated product and we have to open it and connect it, okay? Perfect. So we have written down the end state with full details if possible, and then we take it and move it into a table, okay? This would be like the draft status for me. I know there is a lot of information, so let me take your hand and tell you where to look, okay? So first of all, here in the date as periods, I have quarters. This is why in my case, for my company, that works and is a good cadence for me. Maybe this is not going to be okay. Adapt the periods as you need, okay? We can have 20 columns if you want to. This is up to you, okay? Then if you look at the names, we can visualize a little bit what is the plan, right? So because as you can see in the first quarter, the idea is to open our APIs, product with open APIs. Then in the next quarter, build three integrations internally with our internal teams. Then the next one, Q3, is with 3 handpicked partners. They will build 3 integrations because our product has been opened. And finally, make the things to finish for our product to be ready for external development. Maybe this one is like with some support to them, but here is like anyone can build, okay? So I can imagine the end state of this, like, you know, like, hey, what a journey. We finally do it. We have opened our product and now we have a percentage of people that is coming from these acquisition channels, X person from this channel. And so all this, and I have been able to translate this into the table. If we have a look at more, let's say, more details, if we go to the goals of Q2, for instance, right? 3 integrations internally. The goal is to build internally 3 integrations in external marketplaces, complementing our 3 main product use cases. You can say, but what use cases? Okay, we have to define them, right? So if there is something that, I mean, as a draft is acceptable, as a plan is not acceptable, because at the end we can see here some to be defined here and there, right? And it's not a problem because it's a draft. So this is the goal, and the outcomes is build 3 integrations internally. So 3 integrations has been built internally. And I like this outcome as an example because this is that 3 partners are on board to build an integration next quarter. So this is more a discovery side. It's not an execution. You are not generating an outcome in the product, but you need it to the next quarter to be successful, okay? Dependencies is the line that I add to this table to try to be specific from my side, from the engineering side, from the security side, and from all the stakeholders to add here the dependencies. That can be that the partnership and the business development team have to be involved in the selecting some partners. Maybe it's going to be a new hire that you need, like a technical writer, because you have to generate a lot of technical documentation, for instance, or maybe even that you have to include like the legal department, okay? Because you are having you have to do some partnership agreements, and you have to bear this in mind. Okay, and last example, because I don't want to go through all the table. Last example is about metrics. So in this case, for Q2, following the flow, is a number of integrations. So we didn't have integrations, so 0 integrations, and we want to move it to 3. Okay, this is the metric. Another metric is, and the goal is to be defined here yet, is the percentage of monthly active users adopting integrations. We want to move it from 0 to X%, okay, to be defined. In this case, at this stage, I would be working with a data scientist to understand how we can move the needle in this sense, okay? I know this could be more an operational metric because this is adoption, and let's say the strategic metric would be retention. So at the end, adoption and retention should go together, because there is a correlation of those users adopting integrations retain better. So this is the operational and the strategic. In some cases, I think this table is showing more the operational metrics than the strategic ones. And also because we want to increase our users thanks to channel, which is our strategy, we have to understand what is the percentage of new users coming from external marketplaces. And also we can have an eye on ARR from new acquisition channels and relative, let's say, more regarding revenue metrics. And as you can see, there is more detail at the beginning than at the end. That for me makes sense because you will have more details in the short term than in the long term. For me, that is acceptable. It's not a problem. But with the collaboration of everyone, you will have like a solid plan, in my opinion. Good. I would like to do a quick recap before finishing. And regarding the process, what I do and what I recommend is to start your plan working backwards, writing the end state, then write down the draft of the plan and share it as soon as possible, including goals, period dependencies, deliverables, success metrics, and from there, iterate. And I'm strong opinionated that to be successful in this process, the PMs have to be accountable for the value, and you have to work with empowered teams. And to do it, you have to give them the problem, share the problem to solve instead the feature to build, and share with them all the strategic context around for them to make good decisions. And that is what I have prepared for today. The last thing I want to mention is that I love to meet new people. So if you think connecting to me is meaningful for you, send an invite through LinkedIn, and I will be happy to connect. And with that, back to Joan for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Raúl. It has been such a enlightening, and your example has already received a compliment. I would believe that it's a great example. So let's look at, if you have questions, now we go into our Q&A session. Should you have questions, please feel free to share them on the screen. As
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
it's a little bit how you say, idealistic, but you were talking about accountability to the product management, and you were talking about the value of the goals or the product. However, I'm always have the question of how you're really measuring the values, because you also mentioned the time. So what is the really value that, for example, in Typeforms, they use to measure your work? As an example, it's like you said, I can know how many percentage of new users, right? Mm-hmm. But if that percentage of new users, you can have 50% more of new users, but you take 3 years to do it, and you spend 3 million euros. You know, how are they really measuring the budget of that? Product?
That's a very good question. I mean, and I agree that it's really hard to measure the value that you have generated. But in fact, if you base your decisions on impact, and I will give you an example, I don't want to be idealistic, right? So imagine, coming back to the example, if we are talking about integration, everyone knows that using integration is something that retains your users, because you are part of a workflow and they are using their tools and they are comfortable using their tools, and it's meaningful and valuable, right? How you can measure the value generated by the PM? I assume that the initiative that the PM is bringing wants to move a metric and generate an impact. Mm-hmm. So the success of the PM should be relative to this, how this metric has been moved. So
and in how many time, and how much time?
In how much time? Obviously, because you can
how
have
many
like
resources, you know.
Absolutely is about how many effort, how many effort have you dedicated to that. So maybe if you spend 3 million euros to reach your goal, so everything is in the maths there. But I agree with you that it's really difficult to measure. But for me, the value should be measured through the impact the PM is generating. If the PM is generating this value, that's okay. And should be a correlation between the adoption of integration and the lower the churn in this case. If
but
not,
for example, how in Typeforms, how they decide how many resources to allocate to one of your products or goals? Do you have to fight for them, or do you have, or it's based on the strategy that you talk that it's in the beginning, that it's already decided, you know?
Yeah, and what we do is prioritize the initiatives. So if you want to do something, and I think this is like a really interesting topic to how to prioritize properly to do the things that have an impact, right? Mm-hmm. And in my case, what I use is the RICE method. I don't know if you know it, the RICE, that is like having into account how many people you are going to reach, how many people you are going to, what is the impact you are going to generate, how confident you are, what is the effort, and then you have a score, and then you have like depending on the effort, the impact you want to generate and all that. In my case, I prioritize the initiatives I want to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Very nice presentation. I really like it.
Thank you, Pavel. Thank you.
Great question, Pavel. I'll take the first question from Hama. Your name is a little bit long. Sorry, it's Hama, short form. I struggle to understand setting a strategy without doing any discovery work. How do you ensure the strategies or plans set out by the PM align with the demand of customers?
That's a great question. That's a great question. As I have said, when translated a strategy into a plan, the vision and the strategy has been defined. So, and for me, this is part of the strategy. So in the strategy, you have validated that this is meaningful before going into the plan, okay? And what I mean that the plan have to be all the product phases, validation, discovery, I am not meaning that I will discover what to do. I will discover how to make the plan possible. But at this stage of translating the strategy into a plan, you have correlated the data, and you know that doing this, we are going to get more users for sure, because we have done some experiment or whatever. So this validation should come before this stage. I don't know, if this answers your question.
This person, I think he's on Zoom.
Yeah, okay.
You could raise your hand and say if it's answered or not. I'll take more questions.
Yeah, she said yes. So good.
Awesome. CG says it's as insightful as usual. I had a question about, first of all, I need to acknowledge that the state of mind when you're starting to set up a strategy is one thing that has caught my attention, that starting with the end in mind. Working within an empowered team, how do you ensure that they buy into your end state from the get-go? How have you done that successfully?
In my case, the end state is something that I use for myself as a product manager. So I write it for myself, and it's like a process for myself to define like the high level plan, what are the steps that we can follow, right? But it's for myself. But I think the angle of the question is how you get the buy-in and share the strategic context, and you really empower your teams, right? Mm-hmm. In this case, what I usually do is involve the team, share the strategy with them, explain the strategy, have meetings with the full team, having some workshop if needed, sharing the goals we want to achieve, sharing examples, but the end state is like an internal process. So in this case, I work with the strategy, sharing the strategy. What should be, have a high level plan, all the goals and everything defined properly. And this is what I share with the team. Hopefully I have answered the question.
Yeah, and a follow-up question on that. When you're sharing the goal with the bigger team or the wider team, for context, there is a point you get to where you in your plan that you had this dependency. At what point do you get to involve the dependent parties within your plan over the several iterations that you have? Because not everyone is required in Q1 will be your dependency at Q4, for example. Yeah, so that changes over time. So what is your cadence there in terms of managing that dependency across your vision and entirely through the go-to-market step?
Yeah, it's really hard. So you have to be certified in common sense in terms of how to, how to iterate and how to define the cadence to review that. I would say that for me, where I struggle the most in terms of dependencies is that I write down the dependencies I can see. So and this is the table I have shared. This is the dependencies I can imagine.
Yeah.
But then you share this with the legal department, and then you will see, they will put a comment there and will say, hey, I have created these 7 documents of dependencies, and it's really hard to keep everything synchronized. I would say for sure I iterate every quarter in my case. But if you have empowered people, they will raise it when they see it. It's like, hey, we have an accessibility problem, because they see the problem we want to solve and they understand the context. Or, hey, if we do that, we are not going to be able to open the subscription model to whatever, right? I think maybe the key in this sense is have like empowered people that really rise the flag quickly, because at the end you cannot raise the flag for all the departments. You are the one driving, but you don't have all the visibility. It's impossible.
That's empowering, and I kind of understand the complexity, the need for common sense. It's all approved, I think, on my end. How often do you review product strategy? Is a question.
I think that the product strategy is something that you iterate a lot until you have it. But when you have it, you shouldn't move it a lot. So I expect more iterations in the plan than in the strategy. Strategy should be, hey, this is strategy, and this is where we go. It's clear, and everyone understands it. Once it's defined, because by defining it, you have to like spend some time, a lot of changes. But when it's defined, it's not like the plan, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. A plan can change. You can change how to make it possible. A strategy should be solid. If you pivot, that's okay. You can pivot, but you shouldn't iterate on it like every month.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions? I don't see more questions from other platforms. In terms of the metrics, you mentioned the balancing between operational and strategic metrics, which is a lot, many times kind of can be overlooked, but how important has that played in the success of the products that you have released, making sure that you are not short-sighted on either side of those metrics?
In my case, I think somehow I used to be more focused on the operational metrics, and I know that this is well connected. If your strategy makes sense, they are well connected to the strategic metrics. So you can close an eye on the strategic one and focus on the operational one if you know that there is a correlation, So if you know that there is a correlation and that's clear, then you can focus on the operational and then drive the team. Is like, hey, our not North Star metric, but our main metric, the main metric we want to move is percentage of monthly active users adopting integration, monthly active customers adopting integrations, for instance, in the example I mean.
Awesome. So we are about to end our weekly event, but I just have one addition. Given our third poll question, where how many people are involved in developing a plan, we had a divide of 11% said UX, 11% also said data, 33%, I think 23% engineering manager, and 67% said all. So according to you, what's the best practice that the number of people or parties or team members that should be involved in developing the plan?
Yeah, I think that depends a lot on the product, right? So because maybe the design is going to be your best friend if you are in Figma, for instance, for just putting an example, or in other cases, engineering is the most important thing. But I think you should include everyone. So for me, the best answer would be everyone should be part of the plan, because you need like the design perspective, the engineering perspective, and at the end, product discovery is about a combination of things. So the product manager is someone that connects the dots sometimes, but the product discovery is something that the magic happens when you really put in the same room, you know, or in the same Zoom meeting, let's say, and all these professionals for raising the proper things to tackle.
Great. So we have wrapped up our Q&A session. It's been a pleasure to get responses from Raúl. It's actually an important step as a PM to be very strategic and a great planner. So I do hope the tools provided today will serve your planning process and help you deliver great products faster. Once again, I would like to thank you for your participation on today's session. Join us next week again, same time, same platform. If it's your favorite, YouTube, Zoom, LinkedIn, Twitch, and also you can chat with us on Telegram. For us to have this event on a weekly basis, we would like you to support us in monetary form so that we continue to carry the empowering messages across via various different tools. So your support could go a long way, and we'll appreciate that on Patreon. And for that, I thank you very much, Raúl. It's a pleasure to be your host. And thank you, Product People, for giving the community the gift of knowledge and sharing. As always, we will see you next week. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.